Welcome everyone to the Coast to Coral Bonus Bites. We have Sara talking about sea flaps, otherwise known as Manta Rays. So thank you for taking the time today to join us. We really super appreciate it. I just wanted to say a massive thank you to the myriad of supporters that we do have. Moving everything online obviously changes quite a bit of how we work. Definitely that face-to-face interaction makes it a little bit trickier. But what we'd like to do is say thank you to everyone who has lent a hand. We couldn't do it without the myriad of supporters, as you can see here, to allow any of our activities to continue. For those of you who are interested, we have a few different events popping up. We've got wraps for the reef. So if you're interested in learning how to make your own beeswax wraps and reduce your single-use plastic, we have a how-to coming up on the weekend, a bit of a crafternoon activity. We also have Jellyfish of the Sunshine Coast with Raylene Draper. So the next Coast to Coral event, if you want to find out a little bit more about that. And if you are interested, please feel free to jump onto my giving circle and vote for Reef Check Australia. So there's a bit of funding up for grabs there. It doesn't cost you anything to do it, but if you can jump on, you can actually vote once a week at this stage. So please feel free, jump on there, give us a vote, give us a share, and hopefully we go into the draw to win a little bit of extra funding that will allow us to continue the vital work that we do. And I really just want to say thank you. Essentially, thank you for everyone to join in today. When we all come together, essentially we can make waves of change for our oceans and our reefs. So thank you very much for joining us. And thank you very much for our speaker tonight.
Alrighty. Thank you for having me. So this is a pivotal moment for me. This was back in 2015 in Kona in Hawaii. So as you can see, I'm holding on to the PVC pole that has lights attached to it, and the lights attract the plankton. So therefore the manta rays come up and do their somersault feeding where all the plankton has been distributed. And as you can see, I'm pretty excited in the background. It was an amazing moment and one that I'll never forget, obviously. So a little bit about me. So I'm a passionate marine ecologist, recently graduated from the University of the Sunshine Coast. For my undergrad, I studied a Bachelor of Animal Ecology and finished that in 2018. And then in 2019, I continued on and did a Bachelor of Marine Science as an honours project. For my honours year, my primary supervisor was actually based at the USC Fraser Coast campus in Hervey Bay. So I decided to relocate there for about 4 months to complete my honours at the campus there. So while I was in Hervey Bay, I actually managed to obtain a position as a deckhand on a whale watching boat, which was really cool. And as on the boats, I was, as I said, a deckhand and a marine interpreter. And when I finished while working on the whale boats, I realised I quite liked working in marine tourism. I thought it was a pretty cool place to get into after university, just something fun. So I decided to undertake my coxswain certification. For those who don't know what that is, it's a commercial boat license where you have to fill out a task book over time. And obviously, I had some pretty amazing encounters on the whale boat as well. So when I finished my thesis and the whale season in November last year, I decided I wanted to continue working in marine tourism for a bit. So as it was quite fun, I had a bit of it was pretty busy year as an honours student, so I wanted to have a bit of fun. So I decided to continue working in marine tourism and move to the Whitsundays, or Airlie Beach to be more specific, and have been working at Cruise Whitsundays on the Great Barrier Reef as a bit of a dual role as a tour guide, cruise attendant / deckhand. And as you can see, it's also very beautiful up here. We've had some pretty fun times out on the reef. So for my honours, my project investigated the interspecies interactions in manta rays at cleaner stations. I was able to do this project at Lady Elliot Island in Queensland. For my project, I was also lucky enough to be able to collect my data using scientific scuba diving techniques. And this resulted in first class honours, which I was very stoked with. So currently I am undergoing edits and feedback from my reviewers for my thesis and manuscript. So for this reason, there's likely to be potential changes to my statistical analysis based on the corroborations from my co-authors as well. So my results may modify. So for that reason, I'm not going to go too in depth into my statistical analysis and my results, because at this stage it's likely to change, and I will redo my final presentation once more and hopefully have another presentation in a few months' time. So for that reason, I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on the pathway to scientific scuba diving as an honours student, just in case there's any other undergrad students who are interested in potentially following a similar path, who want to get into scientific scuba diving and potentially want to do manta rays as well as an honours project or a PhD, because it does take a long time to be able to do scientific scuba diving. It's not something you can do in a month's time. It takes 6 months minimum to a year, really, because as we know, it is expensive to go scuba diving and get those qualifications. So this leads on to my project, and the title of my project was Sexual Dimorphism in Agonistic Behaviour Exhibited by the Reef Manta Ray, Mobula alfredi at a cleaning station aggregation site. And my supervisors were Dr. Kathy Townsend. She's an associate lecturer at USC Fraser Coast and a marine biologist and the resident manta ray and turtle expert. And my co-supervisor was Dr. Celine Freer, and she is a lecturer at the USC Sunshine Coast campus, and she's an expert in animal behaviour. So social behaviour is a functionally significant aspect of ecology. It encompasses a multitude of interspecies interactions, including communication, cooperation, aggregations, and sexual displays. Many animals are inherently driven to aggregate, to share and benefit from common resource requirements such as predator avoidance, increasing foraging efficiency, and optimizing reproductive opportunities. With these benefits also comes costs associated with group living and interacting with conspecifics such as disease transmissions, competition for resources, including territories, food, and mates. However, in many groups, sociality has grown over time as the benefits of close association exceeds the costs. And animals also compensate for these costs associated with group living through aggressive and agonistic interactions. Now, aggressive interactions are known to occur in competitive contexts, in competitive environments where animals may engage in physical combat. Agonistic interactions, while associated with aggression, incorporates a broader range of behavioural patterns related to conflicts, such as acts of threats, displays, submissions, movements, exaggerated postures, and chases. Agonism occurs in competitive contexts and may arise when an individual feels threatened yet unable to flee. And there are complex underlying roles that this behaviour plays, including the formation of dominance hierarchies, territoriality, and sexual selection. Agonistic displays are widespread across taxa, and this includes chest beating in male gorillas when approached by another male in order to display dominance, and is also observed in the form of the hunch display in grey reef sharks, characterised by a raised snout, arched back, posture motivated by self-defense. In most species, aggressive and agonistic behavior is known to occur more in males, and this is due to high selection pressures and occurs as a response to intense sexual competition between males. Sexually dimorphic agonism is observed in marine mammals, including bottlenose dolphins and California sea lions. In dolphins, males engage in agonistically with other males, while the females are much more tolerant to other females. And male California sea lions engage both aggressively and agonistically with other males as well when competing over territory and mates, while these interactions are rare in the females. Reef manta rays are large-bodied and highly charismatic elasmobranchs. They are distributed around the world's subtropic and tropical waters. Currently, knowledge of their behavioural ecology is limited. At present, current literature has developed a rudimentary understanding of their feeding, courtship, and swimming behaviour, yet understanding of their sociality is extremely limited. Manta rays lack physiological features such as teeth or stinging barbs that would allow them to engage in physical combat. So they're still thought to be solitary, and their only defense mechanism being high speed in the form of flight. So due to their inability to interact aggressively, studies have not yet encountered or investigated potential agonistic displays that may relate to posture, swimming patterns, and body movements. So, although they are still predominantly thought to be solitary, aggregations of high numbers are known to occur. And this is observed in behaviours such as cleaning, feeding, and courtship. So it is not uncommon to observe up to 20 manta rays occupying a single cleaning station in aggregation sites. In certain parts of the world, manta rays have been observed engaging in complex cooperative feeding behaviour to concentrate the density of plankton and enhance overall feeding efficiency. Courtship behaviour in manta rays can involve over 25 males following a single female to form what is known as a courtship train. Yet it still remains unclear how they are interacting in these varying social environments, whether they are driven together simply due to shared resource requirements or if they do have a social preference. And this is potentially due to a lack of understanding as to what an interaction or association looks like in this species. So my study was conducted at Lady Elliot Island, a large coral cay located in the southern Great Barrier Reef. The reef located off the island is the largest aggregation site of reef manta rays on the eastern coast of Australia. 45-degree cleaner station was selected as the primary study site to record behavioural observations and interactions at a cleaning station. The site was surveyed daily at 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. between the new and full moon. And video footage was collected over 7 days in March of 2019 and 10 days in June 2019. So onto my methods, my video footage collection. A total of 5 GoPro Hero cameras were deployed by scuba diving teams. 3 cameras were placed directly on top of 45-degree cleaning station, placed back to back with a 360-degree view of the site in order to obtain photo identification shots of the ventral surface of the manta ray as they approach the cleaning station. Sex was determined by presence or absence of claspers, as seen here on the males. Whoops. And for the purpose of this study, it wasn't essential to know the identity of each manta ray, as we ended up focusing on sex differences. However, each ID was determined for the purpose of building on the current sighting database. So in order to capture behavioural footage, vertical video stations were built. And these were placed surrounding 45-degree cleaner station on the eastern and western side of the bommy. So as you can see here, we have camera 5 on the eastern side of the bommy and camera 4, which you can't see, is on the western side. So video stations were built using a 5-kilogram weight plate, a 40mm PVC pole at a height of 1.5 meters, and a 25 to 40mm plastic reinforcing bar chair drilled to the top so that GoPro attachments could be securely glued on top. GoPro Hero 3 cameras were mounted at the top and captured the behavioural footage from a distance. So of the behaviour that we were documented, there were 2 that we believe are likely to be agonistic displays. So the first being reactive lobe furling. Now, reactive lobe furling describes the furling of the cephalic lobes when reacting to another manta ray. So this was also observed when they came in close contact with cleaner fish and divers. And the movement can involve the furling of just one cephalic lobe or both, and is generally asymmetrical to the side in which the other manta ray is approaching towards or closest to. So as you can see, one of the lobes is furled and one is not in this video here. Now, in this next video is the other agonistic behaviour that we hope to be describing as part of my manuscript. So in this next video is two reef manta rays interacting at the cleaner station. As you can see, once they recognise it's another male, they furl their cephalic lobes, and they then promptly begin engaging in what we are calling flanking behaviour. So as you can see, they begin performing erratic twists, upward and downward movements, often circling one another. So this behaviour occurs until one eventually gives up and leaves the cleaner station. So, as I mentioned at the start, I'm just going to go over a little bit about how I was able to get involved in this project and what qualifications I needed. So, the first being the rescue diver certification and or a dive master. So, the prerequisite for a rescue diver is, as most people know, the open water diver and then advanced open water diver. So, you do need to be a rescue diver. This is, I should mention, this is per my university. I think most are pretty similar, but yeah. And as far as I'm aware, if you are a dive master, you most likely you should be good if you have the dive master certification. That's the top that you could have to be able to do this sort of project. And on top of the rescue diver, you would need to have a minimum of 25 logged dives and 15 hours of bottom time. So this was actually something I wasn't ready for, because even though I had the rescue diver certification, 7 of my dives were under 20 minutes because these were done in California, Northern California, in rough conditions and very cold water. So the dives were a lot shorter than what I had done here back in Australia. So this meant that before my fieldwork started, I needed to quickly get in a few more dives and get my bottom time up to standard before USC approved me as a diver. The other certifications, which are pretty standard as an honours student, is CPR and first aid. The third one, the apply basic resuscitation, is a little bit further related to the diving. So I was able to just do that one at Sunreef in Mooloolaba, and I was able to put that onto my honours budget as well, which was helpful. The commercial dive medical is another requirement. It was $100 to $150, I can't quite remember. And that was also able to go onto my honours budget, which was very handy. And the fifth one being the Perform Diver Rescue certification. This one's a little bit of a grey area. I'm not too sure if every university would require this, but basically I just ended up doing a couple of exams and modules at Sunreef again, and it was about $200, and that was able to go onto my honours budget as well. But yeah, I'd say if you are a dive master, you wouldn't have to go through that. And I'd just like to mention some of the ongoing volunteering I've been involved in over the years, the positive impact it's had on both my academic career experience and personal life, just because I think it's really important, especially for any future university students that want to really get as much experience as possible. I think volunteering is a really good place to start. So the first organisation that I began volunteering with was Turtle Care with the Sunshine Coast in the 2015 season. So Turtle Care is an ongoing marine turtle monitoring program for nesting turtle activity on the beaches from Caloundra to Point Cartwright. And this is run by the Sunshine Coast Council. So duties as a volunteer, duties included early morning beach walks, which was done by looking for tracks such as these, and assisting with nest relocations, and assisting with tagging and measuring of turtles. So as I continued volunteering through the annual nesting season, I was given the opportunity to receive additional training at Monrepo Turtle Conservation Project in 2017. So this is a project dedicated to marine turtle research, protection, and and education. And during this week, I was trained in tagging and measuring and nest relocation and data collection. So I began volunteering with Reef Check Australia in 2018 when I completed the Reef Check ambassador training. So as an ambassador, I was given the opportunity to be involved in various events such as World Environment Day, and held a stall at the USC Orientation Week. We hosted a trivia night where we raised over $1,000 for local reef surveys and assisted in the stall at Caloundra Music Festival. So volunteering as a reef ambassador allowed me to progress in my public speaking by engaging with the public about reef conservation and education. In more recent years, I've continued volunteering to build on my experiences and contribute to the local communities I'm a part of. So since finishing my honours project, I remain a part of the Project Manta team and assist in identifying ID shots, and was invited on the June trip to Lady Elliot Island, which was unfortunately cancelled for obvious reasons, but hopefully be able to continue volunteering with them in 2021. And this year, because I work in the tourism industry on the Great Barrier Reef, a select few of my colleagues were given the opportunity to participate in the Eye on the Reef survey training through the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority. So through this program, we were trained in water in order to complete reef health surveys while at work and submit tourism weekly monitoring data sheets. So at the moment, I've recently as well just started volunteering with Volunteer Marine Rescue, known as VMR. So that, as if you don't know, VMR provide marine search and rescue services to the boating public and island communities on a volunteering basis. So at the moment, I've only just started volunteering with VMR. I've only just had one radio room session. But we'll hopefully, once the restrictions ease, be able to get inducted and be able to assist in marine search and rescue. And also, they'll be able to assist me with my coxswain's task book. So where to next? At the moment, while in isolation, like most of you, finish editing my manuscript and hopefully submit it to a journal. I was, this year, hoping to do my presentation at the Australian Marine Science Association's annual conference. Obviously that's been cancelled, but I have registered to do the presentation at Sydney 2021 session, which so should be pretty good. And so there'll be a brand new presentation, hopefully. And at the moment, just kind of focusing on also completing my coxswain's certification and task book, which will hopefully be able to be done through VMR. And with my current deckhand / tour guide job, hopefully once they ease restrictions and this virus goes away and we can start working in tourism again. So I'll open the floor up to questions now, but I've also got this one last video. This is actually courtship footage from my video stations collected. So this first female, which is on top of the bommy right now, is currently being courted by about 5 different males. I wasn't able to use this for my project because although this is really cool footage, there just wasn't enough courtship footage to be able to do a project. So hopefully this footage will be really useful for the students that continue on with this sort of research behind me. This video goes for a little bit, but as you can see, she's circling the cleaner station, and one by one, they each kind of follow her around. And this courtship behavior can last hours and weeks. We actually have about 4 hours of this footage of this group of Manta Rays, which is really cool. And they just keep coming back and chasing her, and she just wants to get nice and clean. But you know, that's the nature of courtship in the animal world. Alrighty, so
Awesome.
there's a few.
Thank you so much for that, Sarah. And yeah, there is heaps of questions popping up through that chat room. So if you are willing to go through those and kind of answer them as you see fit, that would be amazing. But thank you. All of that footage was great. Really appreciated it. So thank you for sharing your experience with this.
Okay, yeah, thank you for listening, guys. And I will just answer a few of these questions. So from Louis asking, what size group of manta rays did I come across and were there any surprises along the way? Yeah, so there were two different field trips. In March, we didn't see very many manta rays. There was probably only 2 maximum at the cleaner station. That's because that's the low season. Then in June, that's the peak season of manta rays. So I believe possibly this video that I've just shown was likely the highest number of manta rays that I've seen, that I saw during my week there. But if you do want to see just how many do aggregate at once, the Lady Elliot Island Eco Resort, they constantly share footage, and the scuba diving staff there are always sharing amazing footage, and they've seen just so many different individuals on the one cleaning station, not just manta rays, they've seen stingrays, they've seen dolphins and everything hanging out. So if you do want to see some cool footage, I definitely recommend checking out the Lady Elliot Island Eco Resort Instagram or Facebook. And am I going to do a PhD? At the moment, I'm not too sure. Sort of just having a bit of a break year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. See what happens, see how I feel. Just having a bit of stress-free life at the moment. And we've got a question, what is the lifespan of the manta ray? So at the moment, that's still up to debate. It's relatively unknown. My supervisor has always said that manta ray research is where turtle research was 30 years ago, and that is very true. So they believe, when my supervisor was doing a presentation, she's always encouraging photos to be submitted to their database. And one person who was at her presentation actually did give her a box of slides from old pictures, I think from this, I could be wrong, but I think it was from the 80s from a trip. So, and this was, I believe, tourists. So one of the individuals that is still active at Lady Elliot Island. So they were able to see that, I think that this individual is 40 years old. So they don't know for sure, but at this stage, they believe they live up to 40 years old, which is really, really cool. What is my favorite memory from research and training? Obviously, finally seeing manta rays again, and at Lady Elliot Island, it's beautiful. But I also loved building my equipment. That was really cool. I had a friend who helped me with that, and just seeing my equipment work and produce such incredible footage. As you can see, that courtship footage, I honestly, with the exception of the GoPro, the actual vertical video station probably cost about $20 to make. So it just shows that you can MacGyver some cool equipment but with the exception of the GoPro, because that's not cheap, but that's okay because the university provides those. And have they ever been tagged? Yes, they have. Plenty of them have been tagged, and that's also how they're able to track their movements. So they've been able to track some manta rays that actually swim offshore from the reef and swimming in the really, really deep water of the continental shelf. So they actually believe that this may be where they are actually doing most of their feeding, and that when they're at Lady Elliot Island, they're actually just snacking. So the continental shelf, they believe that's where they could potentially be getting lots of their food sources from. And there's other PhD students with Project Manta who's done a lot of satellite tracking with the manta rays. So what tips, advice do you have for undergraduates who are thinking of going into honours? I guess just make sure you are prepared for a busy year. Try not to have too many other commitments, but obviously don't overload yourself. But I made the mistake of working a little bit too much during my honours year, and because you don't have depending on what sort of honours project you do, I know with some other fields it's a little different. They might have classes, so an engineering honours project is a lot different to mine, but similarly to mine, you don't actually have classes, so your time is your own, so you've got to be really good with time management. So basically you might think, oh, I don't have any classes, so I can work full-time hours, but no, you do have to dedicate a lot of time, because you also always need time for mistakes. Every honours student you will ask, you could spend weeks on a program that won't work. So you always need to just make sure you have a lot of time to get what you want done, and try not to work too much. As it was amazing, but I did work a little bit too much because the whale season was a lot busier than I expected. Okay, and there's a question from Julie asking, do we know where they give birth? At the moment, no, that's a bit of a hot topic in manta ray research. So they don't really know where the manta ray pupping grounds are. So there is, I believe there's quite a lot of research at the moment looking into where they might be. I think that there is evidence that there could be pupping grounds around the Yucatan Peninsula in the Mexican populations. As far as in Australia, I think there is some theories that maybe around Indonesia is where the pupping grounds are, and that's likely because a lot of the photos submitted from that area, those areas, are actually the smaller manta rays. So they believe that there could be a pupping region around there, but at the moment it is really relatively unknown. And I believe that is the very last question. Yep, that's the last question. But yeah, as I was saying, there's still so much to learn about manta rays. Nothing is certain just yet, and it's a really cool field to get into if anyone is in their undergrad and wanting to do something similar.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. And I guess just to feed on from that as well, anyone who is interested in looking at some of those opportunities or those volunteering opportunities, there's an absolute myriad of citizen science groups around the entirety of Australia and the world. But certainly Reef Check Australia is one of them. So if you are interested in joining Sarah and doing something like the Reef Ambassador course, or going further and doing your scuba surveyor course, then we definitely implore you to get in touch, and we'll put the details in the comments below. Otherwise, you can head just to our Reef Check website, which is reefcheckaustralia.org. So thank you very much, Sarah, for your time. I really appreciate you putting this aside for us, and thank you everyone for jumping online as well. And with that, I shall leave you with the rest of your beautiful evening.